US, American, US, British and Chinese constitution. It is a comparative analysis, so I will try to compare the characteristics of each constitution with another one. So first one is US constitution is a written constitution, and the Constituent Assembly of US Constitution, where the US Constitution was framed, that was Philadelphia Convention. So Chinese Constitution is also a written constitution. Number of times Chinese Constitution was changed, and now we are going through 1982's Constitution of China. But British Constitution is unwritten constitution. There is no constitution or book which can be termed as constitution in Great Britain. So they have unwritten constitution. Then number 2, conventions. Conventions means unwritten rules and regulations, some habits, some practices, some usages, customs which we are following from time immemorial. These are known as customs and conventions. So as in Great Britain, they have no written constitution, so in that country, they run the administration of the country depending on those conventions. So conventions played a very important role in British Constitution. In America, they have written constitution. Of course, they have written constitution, but in spite of that, some of the conventions are still working in America also. For example, US, a particular person cannot contest for US presidency for consecutive 4 terms. So that is a convention that was not written in US Constitution. So US Constitution also follows certain conventions. Then, so far as Chinese Constitution is concerned, they are not so much dependent on convention. Okay. Then Parliament. Parliament means legislature. So what is the name of the legislature? In Great Britain, the name of the legislature is Parliament. The name of the legislature is Parliament, and it is a bicameral legislature. It has 2 houses. Upper house is known as House of Lords and lower house is known as House of Commons. House of Commons is a popular house. Why? Because the members of the House of Commons are elected directly by the people. But House of Lords is a hereditary chamber. That means the membership of the House of Lords generally enjoyed on the basis of heredity. Okay. Then in America, the legislature is known as Congress. It is known as Congress. So Congress, it is also a bicameral legislature. Here the upper house is known as Senate and lower house is known as House of Representatives. But here you remember one thing, that unlike parliamentary form of government in America, upper house is more powerful than lower house. That means Senate is more powerful than the House of Representatives, but it is again a bicameral legislature. And in China, their legislature is known as NPC. NPC means National People's Congress, and it is unicameral legislature. Why unicameral? Why one house? Because China is an unitary state, so they thought that it is sufficient to have only unicameral legislature. So it is known as NPC or National People's Congress, and the members of the NPC are known as deputy. They are elected by the people, and there are more than or near about 3,000 members of NPC. And here I have mentioned about standing committee. You remember this particular term, standing committee. It is a miniature NPC. Okay, that means NPC is a big body. It consisted of 3,000 members, and it is not possible for 3,000 members to sit together from time to time and to frame laws, rules and regulations. So when the NPC is not in session, the standing committee of NPC, that means it is a committee of NPC, it will perform the activities of the NPC. So you remember one thing, that standing committee is a peculiar feature of Chinese constitution. It is not available either in UK or in USA. Okay, because they are the legislature, they themselves performing their own functions, but here it is a huge body, it cannot sit together very often, and that's why they have another committee within them that is known, that may be termed as miniature NPC, and they performed all the activities of NPC in normal circumstances. Then executive. So in Great Britain, the real executive is known as Prime Minister, and in China, the executive is known as Premier, and in America, the real executive is known as President. So you remember, in America, in Great Britain, he or she is the Prime Minister, then in China, Premier, and in America, President. And who assisted the executive? In England, the cabinet assisted the Prime Minister, helped the Prime Minister to run the administration of the country. And in China, the cabinet is known as State Council. You remember that thing also very clearly. In China, the cabinet is known as State Council, and State Council help the premier, that means the Prime Minister, to run the administration of the country. And in America, they have presidential form of government, so they have no formal cabinet, but one informal cabinet is there in USA also. The members of that cabinet is actually appointed by the president, and they are responsible to the president. So all of them have a kind of cabinet. In Great Britain it is cabinet, in China it is State Council, and in America they have the cabinet, but that is the subordinate employees of the president. Then nominal executive. In Great Britain, the nominal executive is known as king or queen, okay, because they have monarchical form of government, so king or queen is the nominal head of the state. And in China, the nominal head of the state is president. But in America, the president himself is both the real head and ceremonial head of the country. That means he always play dual rule. Okay. Then division of power. You remember one thing, that so far as division of power is concerned, here I have mentioned, okay, division of power is concerned, America is a federation. America is a federation, but England and China is an unitary state. That means there is only one central government who look after the administration of the country. But in America, they have federation. So what is federation? There are two types of government. One central government, and there are 50 state governments in America. So naturally, in USA, powers are divided between the center and the state. That means one center and 50 states are there. Power is clearly divided between center and states according to three lists which are included in the constitution. But in England or in China, as they have unitary form of government, so there is no question of division of power between the center in the units, but they also have some administrative areas, some local areas. They have given them some powers, but it is given by the authority themselves, not the constitution. Remember that. Then fundamental rights. Fundamental rights is very important. It is known as Bill of Rights in America, and people enjoy number of political rights in America, along with certain economic rights also. And in China, the fundamental rights and duties both are included in one chapter, and it is very significant rights which are enjoyed by the people of China, because in China the constitution makers put more stress on economic rights than that of political rights. So they have given more power, more economic powers to the people, and they have given political power also to the people. But you remember one thing, in China there is only one political party, and that is known as Communist Party of China. So people cannot say anything against that Chinese Communist Party. So their political rights are more or less meaningless, but they are enjoying elaborate economic rights, right to work, right to leisure, right to old age pension, everything. So whatever may be, you simply remember that fundamental rights in China is very elaborate, and they put stress on economic rights. Political rights are also given to the people, but these are much more theoretical than practical. And in America also, separate chapter is there. The name of the chapter is Bill of Rights, and people of America also enjoying the fundamental rights. But what about England? They have no written constitution. But do you think that they are not enjoying the power or enjoying the rights? Yes, of course they are enjoying fundamental rights which are necessary for the citizens of England. And how they enjoy the fundamental rights or the rights which are necessary for them, that is based on judicial decision. That means fundamental rights which are enjoyed by the British people, these are the result of judicial decisions, because they have no written constitution. So rights are not written in the constitution. So whenever the judges they gave certain verdict after observing many things, when they gave their verdict on a particular case, that verdict ultimately became the rights of the citizens. So the people of England, they are enjoying the fundamental rights which are based on the decisions of the judges. Okay, so these are, all of them are enjoying fundamental rights. Then judiciary, American judiciary, the highest judicial organization of America is known as Supreme Court of Supreme Court of USA. Then in China, the Supreme Court is known as Supreme People's Court. And USA also, and UK also, that means in Great Britain also, they have their own Supreme Court. But you remember one thing here, that US Supreme Court is much more powerful than that of Chinese and British Supreme Court. Why? Because the US Supreme Court is known as the third chamber of the legislature. That means American Congress has two chambers, Senate and House of Representatives. So any bill passed by the Senate and House of Representatives can be nullified by the Supreme Court, can be rejected by the Supreme Court of America. So, and not only that, that particular law is against the constitution of the country. If the judges interpret that, okay, this law may be unreasonable, this law may be detrimental for the citizens, then also they can nullify that law. So, Supreme Court actually enjoy a huge power in case of judicial review, and that is why American Supreme Court is much more powerful. So far as England is concerned, they have no written constitution. So, in England, it is the Parliament which is the sovereign authority in case of lawmaking. As there is no constitution, so question does not arise of review the constitutional validity of a law passed by the Parliament. So whatever Parliament passed, that is final. So the Supreme Court of England, it has not enjoy the power of political judicial review. So US Supreme Court is, from that point of view, less powerful than that of the American Supreme Court, because I have clearly told you that they have no written constitution, so there is no question of examine the validity of the law passed by the Parliament. So whatever Parliament passed, that is the law of the land. And so far as China is concerned, their Supreme Court is known as Supreme People's Court. Okay, but it is a subordinate body of the NPC. Always you remember that NPC is the most powerful body in China, and all the judges are actually appointed by the NPC. They are responsible to NPC, and they must have to submit their annual reports of activities to the NPC. So in China, the Supreme Court is less powerful than that of NPC. So the American Supreme Court is most powerful, after that British Supreme Court, and after that of Chinese Supreme Court. Then party system. In England, they have bi-party system. That means two political party, one is Conservative Party and one is Labour Party. But here you remember one thing, that in England the two parties are ideologically wide apart. That means their ideology are not similar. They are following two different types of ideology. Then in America, again they have biparty system. One party is known as Democratic Party and another one is Republican Party. But in America, both the parties are ideologically more or less similar. So we are not able to find out what ideological differences between the two parties of America. And so far as China is concerned, they have only one political party, and that is known as Communist Party of China. And that Communist Party actually follow the principle of Marxism, Maoism, Leninism, etc. And so from that point of view, China may not be branded as true democracy. Okay, so next, the peculiar features. Rule of law is the special feature of British Constitution. All the countries generally follow the principle of rule of law. Rule of law means run the administration of the country by following rules and regulations. But in England, it has three special meaning. First one is all are equal before the eyes of law. No person can be punished except for breach of law. And third one is fundamental rights enjoyed by the people are the result of judicial decision. So rule of law has special significance in England. Then separation of powers and checks and balances. These two characteristics is peculiar in America. America is following the principles of separation of powers. That means the three wings of the government, executive, legislature and judiciary, their powers are strictly separated, and they cannot interfere on one another's activities. That is separation of powers. But later on, the constitution maker realized that total separation of power is not good. If one wing become much more powerful, it may become dictatorial. So they have introduced another characteristics in American Constitution, and that is known as checks and balances. That means certain powers are given to other wing of the government so that they can control each other. For example, the American president, he is the head of the executive. He cannot attend the session of the Congress, that means the legislature, but his signature is necessary for passing a bill by the American Congress. In that way, the Senate, that means the upper house of the US Congress, enjoys certain direct executive power. In that way, Supreme Court also using its power of judicial review to control the executive and legislatures. So these are the examples of checks and balances. So these two characteristics is special for American Constitution. And last one is Standing Committee of NPC, which is not visible in other countries. It was earlier there in the Soviet Constitution. Earlier Soviet Constitution, there was an organization which is like that of the Standing Committee, but now it is only in China they have Standing Committee. That means it is the miniature parliament. When parliament is not in session, NPC is not in session, Standing Committee performs all the activities of the NPC, and when NPC will sit, they will pass all the activities they had done by the NPC. So this is very briefly about an comparative analysis of the three constitutions. Thank you.